The iron-gilded gates of Parliament are supposed to creak only for great affairs of state, budget readings, new bills, the ceremonial sweep of a king's speech. But this week, something far less expected has begun threading its way through the red-carpeted corridors of the House of Lords, a formal motion that could erase the last traces of royalty from a man who was once the monarchy's most popular spare. No tabloid speculation, no family whisper. We are talking about the machinery of British law cranking into motion with the calm precision of a clock tower. If the proposal gathers enough Westminster momentum, Prince Harry could soon be legally restyled plain Mr. Henry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor. No Her Royal Highness, no Duke of Sussex, no whispered precedence at state banquets. And unlike past calls to strip the titles that fizzled at petition desks, this effort carries crossbench support and a public mood swinging 2-1 in favor of decisive action. When tradition collides with political gravity, the impact can reshape more than one royal resume. But before we let that heavy gavel fall in our imaginations, let's step inside another set of royal rooms, quieter, sunlit, and decidedly more hopeful. There, at Adelaide Cottage and occasionally on a discreet Windsor phone line, Catherine, Princess of Wales, is still working her own kind of diplomacy. While committees draft clauses to sever her brother-in-law's regal tether, Catherine remains the lone senior royal, quietly dialing Harry's number, sharing brief check-ins, half apologies, gentle humor, anything to keep a thread intact between two brothers whose bond once felt unbreakable. Can one princess's well-timed olive branch undo half a decade of headlines? Catherine seems determined to find out, even as William, stoic and protective of the crown, chooses every public syllable with surgeon-like caution. Where William sees a monarchy under siege, Catherine still glimpses the stray possibility of Sunday afternoon truce talks, children tumbling on Balmoral lawns, laughter patching what memoirs and Netflix cameras tore. Now layer onto that the newest twist. Harry has confirmed he will return to Britain in 2027 for the Invictus Games' next UK edition. Cue another wave of logistical migraines for palace staff, security bubbles, press pens, family seating charts, plus the sub-question no one in Buckingham's press office is quite ready to answer: will Harry be a duke or a civilian by the time he lands at Heathrow? The silence from royal courtiers on that point is as deliberate as it is deafening. Inside Clarence House, aides admit King Charles is torn in three directions. On one hand, he privately values the Invictus project. No monarch seeks to block wounded veterans' moment of glory. On another, he feels the crown cannot keep footing the reputational bill while Harry monetizes palace grievances from a Californian studio set. And then there is the personal layer, fatherly affection tempered by the sting of spare memoir fallout. Small wonder Charles is said to have ordered legal counsel on how peerage revocation would actually work, and how it might affect Archie and Lilibet's titles down the line. It all makes Catherine's mid-evening phone calls to Montecito feel Herculean in optimism. Reports say she's tried at least 3 times this spring, each conversation polite, but brief, Harry warm, yet wary, Meghan audible somewhere in the background, seldom moving beyond greetings. The distance isn't measured in miles, but in trust depleted. Still Catherine persists, telling confidants she refuses to believe the relationship is unrepairable. That resolve is being tested almost daily. Parliament's draft motion is only the most recent sign that institutional patience has snapped. The argument Westminster backers use is brutally straightforward: the monarchy is a public body. If a duke publicly brands that body racist, cruel, and indifferent to mental health, and then sells that narrative on streaming platforms, why should he retain the heraldic shield, the stylized crown on travel documents, the courtesy precedents in Commonwealth realms? For William, the logic is painful but possible to accept. Friends say he's reached a viewpoint many heirs to thrones eventually voice in private: the institution transcends one relationship. If forced to choose between smoothing the path for his own reign and placating a brother who keeps dragging it all up, as the king allegedly vented during trooping, William chooses the crown. But Catherine? Her instincts are stitched with empathy. Palace insiders recall that during the worst of Meghan's loneliness claims, Catherine was the only Windsor who proposed a girls' day out, to thaw tensions, an outing that never happened, but revealed her default mode. Mend first, litigate later. Even now, aides say, she imagines Harry's children meeting George, Charlotte, and Louis at a beach somewhere unphotographed, forging a cousinhood above the noise. Yet time is running out. The House of Lords committee stage could begin as early as autumn, meaning a final vote on titles by spring 2026. If passed, Harry would remain a prince by birth, but lose the dukedom and Her Royal Highness style that grant him commercial cachet, and invite quibbles about using royal branding on global tours. That in turn would test Sussex business models built around a quasi-royal aura. Meghan's production deals lean heavily on that narrative source, personal but princely, intimate yet illustrious. A legal downgrade to Mr. and Mrs. Mountbatten Windsor would sap some star wattage at precisely the moment they shop for new media partnerships. Small wonder, then, that California sources hint Harry's 2027 Invictus pledge could double as a PR parachute, prove his charitable credentials on UK soil, remind the public of his veteran advocacy, maybe soften MPs before they press the red button on his dukedom. Whether that tactic works may depend on optics far beyond his control, like Charles's health trajectory, or the public mood if Republican protesters succeed in turning Trooping 2026 into another placard battlefield. Meanwhile, Catherine's health-paced return to duty sets a parallel tempo of goodwill. Each time the princess steps onto a balcony, or into a chapel procession, she dampens the flames licking around the monarchy's base. Polling shows her favourability above 70%, roughly double Harry's current numbers in Britain. She is, in effect, the family's diplomatic shield, the person most of the country still trusts to act with basic decency. And that moral capital is precisely what she spends when she dials Harry after William rolls his eyes and changes the subject. But reconciliation is a relay, not a solo sprint. Catherine can pass the baton across the ocean, Harry must carry it home. That means navigating a future UK visit that will almost certainly require him to stand within handshake distance of a brother he once called his arch-nemesis. How do you step onto Invictus podiums in Birmingham or Portsmouth, praising sacrifice and teamwork, when the one teammate Britain most wants you to heel with remains a cold silhouette in the royal box? Some courtiers whisper that the 2027 Games could be used as a neutral zone. Imagine William appearing at the closing ceremony, Catherine on his arm, greeting veterans from both sides of the Atlantic, and Harry turning to embrace them. Cameras would feast, social media would combust, poll numbers might surge for everyone involved. But that PR fantasy requires months of behind-the-scenes, shuttle diplomacy, and right now the flight path is blocked by Westminster motions and a king juggling cancer treatment with an ever-shrinking patience threshold. So we arrive at a crossroads. On one fork, the House of Lords presses forward, lopping the Sussex dukedom like a gardener trimming a diseased branch. On the other, Catherine continues her soft power calls, convinced a family that managed to survive abdication, divorce, and Diana's death can surely survive a Netflix deal gone sour. Which road will the crown choose? Perhaps both. The monarchy has always excelled at paradox, firmness in parliament, softness in parlour rooms. Titles may go, but Christmas invitations could still arrive, if only someone swallows enough pride to RSVP yes. And you, dear viewers? Does stripping the Sussex style seem a necessary step to protect the monarchy's brand? Or should the institution hold fire, leaving room for Catherine's voice of compassion to pull the brothers back from brinkmanship? Scroll down, share your verdict, and keep your notifications switched on. Because whether you side with legislative thunder, or with the princess's whispered olive branches, one thing is certain: history is rarely forged by a single swing of the gavel. It's hammered out in private phone calls, public podiums, and the tiny human decisions behind palace doors, choices that can echo for generations, long after dukedoms and hashtags have blown away like confetti in a London wind.